Uh, Here's a story from Houston, Texas. Let's go back to this briefly. But this is fine. Yeah, I'll do that. Houston School District turns libraries into discipline centers. This is some, like, okay. Forget 1984, forget George Orwell, forget anything like intelligent and theory brained and whatever. This is Matilda level shit. Like, this is literally, you're not allowed to have books because that means you can read and get smart. Instead, we're gonna punish you and you're gonna watch TV all the time. Like, whatever the fuck. It's so dumb. Okay. Largest school district in Texas announces libraries will be eliminated and replaced with discipline centers in the new school year. Librarian and media specialist positions in 28 schools will be eliminated as part of the superintendent Mike Miles' new education system initiative. Teachers at these schools will soon have the option to send misbehaving students to these discipline centers or, quote, team centers, designated areas where they will continue to learn remotely. Literally fucking putting students in, like, school prison. Like, oh, we have detention, but that wasn't prison enough, so we're literally going to banish you from the classroom and put you in a separate, like, box where you have to learn as the problem child and you don't get to interact with other students. Unfucking believable. Comes after the state announced it will be taking over the district. Oh, this is not good. So apparently the state of Texas, the state is actually seizing control of the school district. And they are just gonna be like, yeah, no more libraries. Instead, you get the child abuse box. And of course, they're all so proud of themselves because they were abused as children, and they think that's the only way to raise kids. Librarian retired from school district told local news outlet that her heart is just broken for the kids that are in these schools that are losing their librarian. Me too. Houston's mayor condemned the district's move and said the solution to the problem of behavioral conduct was not to revoke access to books, especially in these underserved communities. Yeah, it's almost like they don't actually have any interest in, like, fixing the problem. He said, are there students that need additional support? Yes, and I'm 100% supportive. But it's not an either or. You don't close the libraries, remove the librarians, and simply have the books on the shelf. What about all the other students? What are you saying to them? He added, with all due respect to the superintendent, I disagree. I don't think the superintendent deserves any respect in this instance. I grew up in the city. I still live in the same neighborhood that exists. I'm the mayor of this city, and I'm the mayor of every person who lives in the city of Houston. He urged schools to open up libraries to avoid creating a two-tier system within the district, as well as providing additional support to students who need it. The district did not immediately respond to a request for comment. This is absolutely true from the Houston mayor. I have no doubt that this guy is, like, a liberal, but, like, it's pretty plainly evident to anybody with a brain, which this guy seems to be, that, like, this is only going to hurt kids. This is, like, like, damn, if there was ever evidence that Republicans didn't actually care about the well-being of kids. But two-tiered system is absolutely right. I mean, you could say that I pre-read this earlier, even though that wouldn't have been true, because you are, at the same time you're creating this two-tiered system where the kids that are labeled to be worse are put in a separate box where they will receive a worse quality education than children who sit in place for 8 hours and behave and do as they're told. And at the same time, you're sort of instilling into these kids the notion that there is some essentially worse characteristic about the problem children, quote unquote. Which, by the way, given that it's Texas, i.e. the South, these problem kids are most likely going to be disproportionately black. You're instilling in kids by doing this that there is some essentially worse characteristic about kids who get in trouble, and that is why they get in trouble. Not because there's anything complicated going on in their lives. There are non-ideal circumstances at home that lead them to mimic bad behaviors or act out in certain ways to seek attention that they're otherwise not getting, but rather because they're simply morally inferior, and that they must be sentenced to the forever box. It's not actually the forever box, but the bad education box. Don't go to Texas. That is my prescription for this. No, I mean, really, my prescription is that Republicans should never be allowed to hold office anywhere in the country ever again, because they're a bunch of clowns who are also evil and hate children. As well as trans people. Many people have said this. It's really not good. And the more time goes on, the more I realize that, like, a lot of the kids in my class who were getting in trouble and whatever, that I'm much better now at drawing a through line. There's a through line that connects every single one of those kids that I remember from school that had a lot of problems acting out in class, that got in trouble a lot. And that through line is low income. I could tell just by the way they, looked, behaved, and the kind of behaviors they exhibited, and also, like, there's a certain aesthetic to it, and also, like the clothes that they wear, whatever. I could tell that these kids were not, like, they were clearly not from wealthy families, or they were not from ideal family circumstances. It's possible they weren't all poor, but there's definitely an element of their families lacking for resources or being more neglectful in some way that led them to turn out poorly in the classroom and led them to, act that way. And that is why the solution for that would not be to, well, put them in the school prison, but rather to expand stuff like special education services, and to expand after school programs and programs in school that aren't just centered around learning, but like straight up just social interaction, where you go with your friends to hang out in a more controlled environment where there can be adults, staff, teachers in the area who can give attention to these kids, so that they feel like they have positive adult influences in their lives, in a Freudian sense of a mother and father figure, so they don't develop, well, mommy and daddy issues or whatever. Because a lot of, the home life of a lot of the kids that are getting in trouble obviously isn't great. And yeah, it's really sad to see when that happens. Whenever there's a quote unquote problem child, I feel sad more than anything. Like, obviously, I feel bad for the kids that are getting picked on and whatnot. But it's just on the part of, like, bullies and kids that act out, the problem kids. It's just projection of pain that they have received in their lives that they're trying to offload onto somebody else because they think, well, if I can get rid of it, then it's not a problem anymore. And that's not how they get rid of it. And this is not how you get rid of it either, with the elimination of public libraries. In fact, learning is actually a good way to at least partially address some of these issues. If kids are able to learn about the things that they're experiencing and see that, like, oh, it's not just me. Because a lot of the problem is also a sense of social isolation, which you would worsen if you got rid of libraries and just put kids in a box for 8 hours. That's the segment. All right, cut it there.